I believe that every case of OCD is unique. Like a snowflake, they may look similar and simple from afar, but the closer you get, the more complex and, in the right light, beautiful they can be. Side note, I googled snowflakes for this part. I Google a lot. I would take photos of things, the plugs of things anyway, so that I could check later that everything at home was safe. It was just too hard to get out of the house otherwise. Otherwise I'd be stuck thinking that I'd left something on, which was only a short step from thinking it must be on, which quickly became, it must be causing harm. One of the strongest memories from my childhood is one of me drawing protective symbols on the doors and windows to prevent spirits from entering it. I was obsessed with the idea of being possessed. I hadn't seen The Exorcist, but the trailer on TV left me so scared that I couldn't sleep unless I crept into my parents' bed. I'd repeat over and over, always in sets of 3, I'm not being possessed, as though not saying would be the equivalent to inviting a spirit to take up residence in my body and keep my mind a prisoner. I know this is a long text and it may be depressing to read, but it feels really good getting it out there, even anonymously. If people at work knew, they would doubt in my competency. I gave up on my dreams. I rarely fell asleep before sunrise. I'd be awake again by noon, and I'd struggle to get out of bed. I couldn't step outside without having to take another shower, even if I was only going to the letterbox. I couldn't walk past an open door or window without having to wash my exposed skin, because fresh air was full of germs that was trying to kill me. I was scared of hugs. I had graphic nightmares and violent, intrusive thoughts. I was miserable. I was scared of everything. I was afraid to live, and I was afraid to die. Because I pictured myself doing monstrous things to my daughter, or myself, so often, I began to wonder if I was a monster. I felt an almost unbearable shame from the thoughts. Every action I take is twisted by the belief that if it is not done in a certain way, then bad luck will come knocking on my door and the doors of my loved ones. The real joke is that I'm not even superstitious. I'm really not. I'm a realist, and I know what I'm doing makes no sense. I know that the complicated collection of mental and physical rituals I've developed over time can't change the course of random events. All the touching of certain items in certain orders while visualizing certain names and numbers brings no certainty of future happiness. I know all this, so why can't I stop? There were some periods that my OCD tried to control me very badly, especially in exam periods, but I never showed it. I passed all the government exams very well. It feels like a miracle to me. No one will believe me if I say I have OCD, because I've done my studies well. After all of this, I've passed my AL exam, and I have been selected to the best university for engineering in my country. Suddenly I was checking everyone I spoke to, anxious to see how my body responded and to see who I was more attracted to. Sexually explicit images flooded my brain from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. I read an article once that said lesbians' ring fingers were longer than their index fingers. My left hand's ring finger was. It was proof. I became obsessed with everyone's finger lengths. I asked to see my friends' nail polishes or rings that they were wearing, only so that I could see the length of their fingers to prove or disprove my own sexuality. My son, 7 years old, gets ready to play a football match for a professional team's academy. He should be proud, excited and honoured. How do I explain to his coach that he's sat at home crying, desperately trying to find the courage to put his shoes on? They don't feel right. The right one needs to be so tight it hurts. The left one, less so. He can't make them feel right. Playing football is his favourite thing to do, but he wants to give up and go to bed. When my illness started, everyone in my family treated it as something secret, something shameful, something wrong. It's probably indescribable. The feeling when even your closest ones regard you as wrong and broken, ill. They wanted to cure me, get rid of that weirdness so I could be a normal child again. But the little girl didn't know that. She didn't feel there was something wrong. She didn't know where these new thoughts and feelings came from. Yet she knew they were a part of her, like an organ, a brain, a heart. And when therapy tried to rip it out of her, she fought. She closed herself and learned to become ashamed, because that was expected. So of course I went through my early school years, being afraid of my secret identity, that it would expose me, and that I would be publicly humiliated. It's always there, that uncertainty, that question. It will never leave me. It's like the bad part of the movie was put on a loop and my remote doesn't have any batteries. I can't get it to just go on with the rest of the movie. I'm stuck in that one part, that horrible part. My intrusive thoughts scare me, and the voices in my head tell me that if I don't do a ritual in a specific way, I will go to hell, or something bad will happen. This is also related to writing this post, as when I decided to write it, the voices told me it was a sin to write on the wall, as I will contaminate myself. I was trapped in my head. To me, all of this was very real. I was convinced if I told anyone the nature of my thoughts, and then the subsequent thoughts, that they would deem me a paedophile. I couldn't step back and realise that these thoughts made me ill. I was sweating and freezing. I have openly campaigned against child abuse, so there was and is no reason for anyone to think I would be capable of taking pleasure from such thoughts, let alone acting on them. People look at me and they see a nice, normal girl, but they have no idea about the horrors that occur inside my head. I'm sure Stephen King would love to pick my brain, and you could definitely make a horror movie centred around my thoughts. Think the most disgusting and disturbing thoughts you've ever had. Multiply them by 100 and put them on repeat, and then you'll know what I deal with. I have questioned every relationship I've been in. Do I actually love them? This goes back and forth and usually ends in me just leaving to stop the cycle. At this point I'm married, so I can't just leave. But I think every day, do I love my husband?